what we love the most is the work. Everybody loves to do the work. I mean, we do what we do because we love it. So as long as the focus is the work, we're having fun. Like I actually like pitching when I get to talk about what I'm going to do, what the work is that I'm going to do, because I'm excited about the work. And I love to get paid because I'm getting what I'm worth. But what I really want to do is spend my time doing the work. So if for example, I'm doing a lot up front to pitch and explain the process, explain why I charge a certain amount, explain why something is going to take as long as I say it's going to take, and having to go through that over and over and over just to get the job, it's like, it's not fun anymore. And getting paid is not fun if you have to haggle, and if they argue with you at the end about like how many rounds of revisions you actually went through, or how many hours you actually spent on something, or you feel like, at the end of it, you did much more work than you're actually getting paid for. Now it's not fun anymore. So the idea of cutting the administrative overhead or the coordinating overhead is really about getting more time to spend doing the fun stuff. And then working remotely adds some additional challenges. And remote is often the nature of our work. I actually worked for 7 years as a consultant, and the bulk of it was remote. And it adds some additional issues with pitching and client management as well, because you may or may not have that personal relationship. And now you're pitching someone through documents and through emails and phone calls, or whatever different mediums you're using instead of in person. But you have to show, in order to get the job, you have to show how you work. You have to demonstrate the work that you're going to do. And I actually often do this by just showing work that I've done in the past. And it works really well because people get it. They see something of value that you created for somebody else, and they go, oh, okay, I want that of value as well. And that's great if you have it. But a lot of times that can backfire because people see that and they say, oh, well, I'm not in that kind of business. Why would you show that to me? Or that doesn't apply to me. That's just like, this lady doesn't know what she's doing. She thinks, I'm asking her for a brand strategy for a museum, and she's showing me a workout app. So I don't want to hire her because she doesn't know what she's doing. So that part can be really difficult. How do you show what work you're going to do and convince people that that work is going to be valuable to them? And then obviously when you're presenting work, and this is part of the remote challenge, is you need the client to understand what to expect. The worst outcomes are the ones where the client expected one thing and saw something else, or they actually didn't know what to expect at all. Couldn't say what they expected, but whatever they saw was not what they were expecting. And so again, they're going back to the pitching phase and thinking, oh, I thought she described it this way, or how many hours has she spent on this work? And now we're paying for this, and I don't see the value in it. And then in client management, you need to keep resetting those expectations to make sure that all throughout the process they understand what's going to happen next, what's expected of them, what you're going to be doing next, how long it's going to take. And it can be really time consuming to keep resetting those expectations. And that's, in my experience, where I have found that I spend the most time, is that constantly going back to the original proposal and resetting up, like, what's going to happen next, and what does that look like, and what is a competitive analysis? Why are we doing the competitive analysis again? I can't remember. When I first saw Hi-flier, I immediately thought, oh, wow, this is a place where I can create those expectations. I can create a visual way to share those, to demonstrate those expectations. So I created my little Wonder communications. These would be actually like my templates. And I could mix and match. So I could say, for this project, we're going to have to do there's always going to be a research phase. But the beauty of this is that I can expand this as much as I want. So on some projects, I may be doing some user research. I may be doing interviews. I might just be gathering materials from the client. Like, maybe they're just giving me stuff, and then I create the first draft of the research analysis. But maybe not. I could just add as many of these motions as I wanted to say, for this project, I'm going to need to talk to some users. I'm going to need to do this. Then I can go back and do, say, after we do the research, I'm going to do a competitive analysis and differentiators. So I'm going to determine how we can differentiate the brand amongst the competition. This could be something that they say, you know what, we don't want to pay for that. I understand, I see the value in it, but it's just not, we're not ready for that. So I can go, okay, I won't add this one to your project then, but I have it and I could show you, I could walk you through what it is, how I do a competitive analysis. I could actually even have a template here. And I could click in and link to it and show them the template that I fill in, or an example, right, of what one looks like. And then I would have my vision workshop, part 1 of the vision workshop, conduct part 1 with the team, gather the relevant notes and feedback, and then review it with the team. So they can see each one of these. This looks like a pretty sizable chunk of work. If I put this into a Word document the way I always did it, of like line items, it doesn't look like anything. It doesn't look impressive and like I'm going to charge 80 hours or 40 hours for this vision workshop, because you would just be like, no. But if you saw it like this and you see all the different steps that have to happen, and you even see the templates and you see that I've done this before, I know what I'm doing, I know how long it takes, I think it increases the confidence the client has in what you're capable of. And then, so the culmination of this particular project would be a brand strategy. So I'm going to develop a brand strategy for 2021 to 2024. So for the next 3 years, it's going to be updated positioning for this client. This would be like the bulk of the work, but this work would kind of reference some of those other parts. So I could have this one going kind of simultaneously as like the master mission. And then some of these other ones would come in. So this could be like conduct competitive analysis, and it would just be this thing. And then you'd be able to say that was done, even though that was a separate mission that we did. But this is where they could see everything that's happening and how it all comes together. And I can also demonstrate that the very first thing I do is gather the strategy, goals, and the desired outcome. So I get to put this in my language. The other thing I love about this is that when the client asks you, when they give you like an RFP, they say, this is the scope of work. We want you to do this and this and this. And it's fine. You understand what they want. But a lot of times the way that they phrase it is not the way that's going to sound the most valuable, because they don't actually even know what they want necessarily. They know what their goals are though, and their desired outcome. So when you can present something this way, it shows that you're more interested in their outcome and their goals than you are in the, whatever scope of work that they've outlined. So you are really setting the expectation at a really high level. I want to meet these goals and outcome, and I'm going to put together a process that I believe will get us there. Because we're all, project managers now, and we have to manage our own time. I think this is just a great way to keep us on track about how much time we have left, especially if you have multiple clients going and you're doing a bunch of these. It can be really easy to get confused about how much time you have left. And instead of having to go again to like your Word document or have to check in, because you may even have like a project manager at the client who's sort of managing you, right? So you could go check in with that person, but even better if you can just keep track of your own time and look at each of your motions and see where you're at, and actually even who's commented. I mean, that would be so amazing along the way if you could see who contributed and who's finished looking at it. This is like a kind of visibility that you never have, and unless you ask, and then it's kind of awkward, but this is like this kind of transparency makes you feel much more connected to the client, especially in a remote environment where you're not in their office. Like they have an office, they work together, but you have no idea what's going on. The other thing that I love about this is that I could bring in other contractors. So let's say I was working on a brand identity. I could have a designer that I hired here to do the logo and the look and feel, and I could drag that person in. I could create a whole mission just for that person. to do the brand strategy. I mean, the brand identity, but I would be managing them. The client relationship belongs to me. And so in this environment, it looks like they work for me. They could even potentially invoice the client separately. That doesn't matter because that's just logistics and like paperwork. But the actual project management shows that there is somebody who's managing this whole thing, and that person is me. And then finally, what I love about this is that I can make any of these into templates. And so if I was going to do this for another client, the work is already done. Like I wouldn't even have to customize it very much. This is another thing when I'm estimating time. A lot of times you don't remember how long it took you to do something. You know, you're going through it, you get to the invoicing and you invoice and you go, okay, I'm done. But then later, let's say you're doing that same project in a month. I find myself going through my emails and checking, like, when did they respond to me? When did I send them this? How long was it before I set the next meeting? And then going backwards and trying to estimate how long it took me to do that so I can create the next proposal. In this instance, I have a timeline right here. I already have a record of it. I know exactly how long it took me. And if I shortened it, or like if I want to save it as a template, I could always shorten it then. Like if I know for sure I do not need 4 days here. It also gives me some credibility to be able to show this and say, you know, I've done this for 5 clients. This timeline works. I've tried to shorten it. It really doesn't work. We always run out of time here. The fact that it's built and has like some solidity, it doesn't look like something I just put together in Word, again, lends some credibility to the amount of time required.